Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It's time to place your bets. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and this is BP NFL. It's time to look ahead to Week 10 in the NFL. We got a couple teams on bye, so a few less games. We're also back to the international scene. A lot going on. And of course, when I think about international men of mystery, I always think of the Undertaker himself. Andrew Erickson is back with us as always. 10-5 last week. I should be happier than I am. Follow me at bettingpros.com/Joe, or just go now to the tab in the search. You can put in Joe Pisapia, Andrew Erickson, and follow us there. But Andrew, there was a couple things that I thought were locks that were not, and it pissed me right off. So week 9 can go screw. I know I shouldn't be miserable. I had a great week, but I am, because some of the things that I was really excited about did not happen. So I don't know, maybe I'm a spoiled brat today, but week 9 felt like one of those weeks, and we get like 4 or 5 of them in a season of 18 weeks, where things were just cockeyed and weird. And one of them, of course, is the one time you should have been on the Panthers. The Panthers win.
Yeah, speaking of the Panthers, Dennis Allen is now bye-bye. Something that I thought was going to happen.
Well, that'll do it. When you lose to the Panthers, I think that's about it for you.
The one thing that you can't do is lose to the Panthers and Dennis Allen. That's exactly what he did. Derek Carr is getting ripped by Michael Thomas on Twitter.
Michael Thomas got hurt just tweeting, I'm pretty sure. Like he has like a sprained thumb, probably.
Michael Thomas.
Who's more angry? Who's more angry now? Saints fans or Panthers fans that they got another victory?
I have no idea. Just very upset. Just in that game in general. Just a lot of not great vibes around the board. But yeah, week 9. I mean, Joe, I couldn't help myself. I saw the rain coming down in Green Bay. I'm like, ooh, Packers money line. Here we go. And then it just absolutely crumbled. And Jared Goff, again, indoor cat. But hey, when Jordan Love throws pick sixes that make it really easy to do your job and you just complete every single pass, well, Jared Goff didn't have to do that much, but he did enough. And yeah, the Lions remain the against the spread champions.
Yeah, I just hand the ball off, man. It's easy. Just ground and pound. All right, let's get to the games here. Before we do, quick reminder, we're giving away free stuff, and it's time to give away the Michael Strahan Giants jersey. The winner of the signed Michael Strahan Giants jersey is Alex. Alex will be contacting you to get that prize, so stay on the lookout. Congratulations, Alex, which means we got a new giveaway, and that is a signed Mike Evans Tampa Bay Buccaneers helmet. Ooh-wee! This is a nice one right here from our good pals over at pristineauction.com. All you need to do to win the Mike Evans signed helmet is to go to bettingpros.com/contest, complete the form, and either download the Betting Pros app, leave a review of the Betting Pros podcast, or subscribe to our social media channels at Betting Pros on X, on TikTok, and Betting Pros NFL on the IG. The more actions you complete, the more entries you receive, and the better chance you have to win the Mike Evans helmet. And we'll be announcing the winner right here on the channel. So subscribe to the YouTube channel, ring the bell till it goes ding, and that way you never miss an episode, and you can claim your prize. I mean, Mike Evans doesn't need his helmet right now, so you might as well have it. That's what I say. All right, let's get to the games here, and let's start here with one that typically goes over when these two teams get together. It's a Thursday night, Baltimore, Cincinnati in Baltimore. Baltimore 6.5 makes sense here. Obviously, favorites 52.5. We did see the angry Ravens, as I told you we would see. We saw them in force. We saw Zay Flowers. We saw Derrick Henry. We saw an ass kicking. Cincinnati continues to have no defense whatsoever. If you like the Cincinnati Bengals on the money line, and I don't, it's plus 228 over on Betting Pros right now. I like the over 52.5. That's where I'm going. I think Baltimore will do its part. And it's kind of like that meme where you see, I did my part, and I didn't do you know what. I think these teams all do their part here, and I think this is still an over. Your thoughts?
I like the Bengals. I think it's too many points for the Ravens, even at home.
Okay.
Look, I don't think that the process was terrible last week going with the Denver Broncos. That game was tight in the first half, and then things kind of got blown up in the second half of the game. But look, this Bengals offense can score points against anybody, and this Ravens defense is still not good. So, well, I don't remember exactly what the score was when these guys played earlier this season, but it was a close game. So I like the Bengals here. Plus at the plus 6.5. I think that they can keep it up.
All right, Bengals Ravens. I'll see if I can get what that last one was. I'll pull that up here. But in the meantime, let's chew on this one. This one had to go international because it's so ugly. They'll take any game over there. Let's give them the Carolina Panthers in Germany against who? Okay, the Giants. Yeah, that's great. They might, after they leave, still not know what football looks like. That's the sad thing for these fans that are going to go out and watch this game. So the tail of the tape for this one, because there is no home team, it's neutral. The Giants are 4.5 point favorites. I don't know how I feel about that. 42.5 is the number, plus 185 for the Carolina Panthers. I know this is a dicey situation for you. I know this is, something that has typically given you some fits, but are you ready to jump back in the pool here when it comes to the Carolina Panthers, Andrew?
No, I am not ready to jump back into the pool because it was the Saints and they're another team that's really fugazi and you're not really sure what to expect from them. So look, the Saints just fired their head coach, right? That basically tells you the state of that current franchise. The Giants, I mean, I guess I can't say that they're so much more functional than the Carolina Panthers have been because there's been talks about Dable's gone, the GM's going to be gone, Daniel Jones is definitely gone next year. So, but they still have weapons on offense. They still have Malik Neighbors. They still have Tyrone Tracy, and their defense is significantly better than the Panthers' defense is. So that's why the Giants are favored here. I get that. Still think it's a lot, 4.5. I think for me, international games, what does the process say? Take the under. Don't wake up. Wake up to a win and then a game that you didn't miss and that you're happy that you missed.
That's a good point.
So that's probably my lean here. 42.5. I mean, these games fly under constantly, especially in Germany where I don't think either of these teams have ever played before. And it's not the same as London. So yeah, I think the under is probably the play for me.
To answer your earlier question, Ravens Bengals on October 6th in overtime, 41-38.
Okay, so yeah, again, I was like, I wasn't just remembering it the wrong way. It was a close game. Went down. Didn't the Bengals cover too? Yeah, I don't think it was.
Yes. Yeah, they did.
So if they could cover a 3-point spread, or what? The spread was what back then? Was it like a?
Well, it was more than 3.
Yeah.
So they covered it.
Yeah. So I'm just saying. I mean, they did it once already. Again, it was at home, but the Bengals have been terrible at home. The only time they've actually been any good, except for last week, has actually been on the road. So especially if they get T. Higgins back, I think that's huge. An extra boost to their offense.
I just like the over. I'm not even worried about it. I'm gonna fret about it. Just give me the over. That's all I want. This one, considering the last one was 79 points, and a couple years ago, this one went into a crazy thing where they scored like 70 plus points. I mean, this is what they do. They just score points on each other. I mean, historically, and if it finally gets the other way, okay, fine, I'll take the L on it. But it hasn't happened yet, so I'm not going there. All right, Atlanta and New Orleans. Now, typically, I do like to bet teams when they fire their head coach. I didn't do it this year with the Jets, and I was right. And I don't think I'm going to do it this year either with New Orleans. I'm just not there. New Orleans is 3-point home dogs to Atlanta this week. Atlanta comes in. Now, they don't have Drake London, which makes this one really interesting. Now, the Saints have no wide receivers. Rashid Shaheed is out. Olave is, who knows, probably out this week, most likely for a couple weeks would be my guess. We'll see. 48 is the number, plus 148 on the money line for the New Orleans Saints. I know you struggle sometimes with the Falcons, but I don't know. I just don't know if there's enough pieces left here for the New Orleans Saints to win this game or even cover this 3. Your thoughts?
I think that the Falcons are kind of showing they beat up on bad teams, right? I think that that's safe to say that they can take care of business against teams that are pretty inferior for the most part. And the Saints right now. So I'm just looking at this live to try to figure out. So Darren Rizzi, I believe, is now taking over as the interim head coach for Dennis Allen. He has spent the last 6 seasons as the Saints special teams coordinator. So it's interesting they didn't promote the offensive coordinator, who a lot of people, Kubiak. They did not promote Kubiak to the interim head coach, which I think is kind of interesting because I know that we liked a lot of what the Saints were doing basically the first 2 weeks of the season. And then ever since then, the offense has just like not looked anything like it did during the first 2 weeks. They had some injuries. And of course, but that's the reality here. They don't have any wide receivers left. The offense is Alvin Kamara, Derek Carr checking down to Alvin Kamara, and Derek Carr throwing the ball to Taysom Hill. That is the Saints offense. And the Falcons, it's tough because it's a divisional. I think maybe the under is the play because if the Falcons don't have Drake London, I mean, that's been Kirk Cousins' binky. He's their possession receiver to move the chains. Obviously, Darnell Mooney is that big explosive playmaker, but they're able to take him away. I feel like, hey, let's just feed Bijan and Tyler Algier. They're going to run the ball a ton. I'm not sure that necessarily generates a ton of points. So I think the under here, what I'm looking at a total. I mean, I saw the total is like 47.
48. That's pretty.
That's really
solid.
High. That's a line that you would look at as, oh, these teams are both at full strength playing in a dome, like shootout. Let's go. And then you look at the matchup, you're like, wait, we're missing so many players from both these teams. This is not a fun game. I think that this is probably a strong underplay.
Yeah, right now it's 48. So that might be one of the better early
big
values. And again, if you're looking for any movement here, make sure you download the BettingPros app. Make sure you use the custom line alerts so you can follow along to the lines that you want to watch and see how they move. I want to get on this one early before it changes and we get more word about people being out because I think that's just the way things are going. And then when they are out, you're going to see people hammer this under and the number is going to move down. So get ahead of these things. This is what this whole show is about. All right, let's get to the next game on our list here. The Denver Broncos coming off an ass kicking. We'll see about the Kansas City Chiefs here, what they do on Monday Night Football. But in the meantime, another big number here. Kansas City 9.5. 42 is the number, plus 380 for the Denver side. I think Denver has an opportunity with that defense, I think, to bounce back and play better. Again, 9.5 is a big number here. I want to lean towards Denver here in this early line. And I imagine you do too. We've continued to talk about, well, they haven't been able to blow teams out this year, even though they're an undefeated team. The Kansas City Chiefs aren't quite the prolific offense they used to be. But I feel like that narrative might change tonight if against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have given up a ton of receiving yards and passing yards this season. If that comes to fruition, maybe this narrative does change a little bit. I think I'm going to wait and see what side shows up, because if it just comes out kind of like a mediocre game again, I think this number holds. And then I think I might be more apt to go bet Denver then. But I'm going to wait until what I see Monday night. Andrew, are you wait and see, or are you pounce on it now?
No, I think wait and see is probably the best approach, because you look at the Buccaneers defense. This is a perfect matchup for the Kansas City Chiefs to, again, at least play above what they've done so far offensively this season. So then you get the Broncos catching even more points potentially on the road. And look, they're not, regardless of however the Chiefs play tonight offensively, they're not going to be as good as the Ravens are on offense. We know that. It doesn't, they just don't have the ponies, the horses, another animal, whatever, tigers, bears, it doesn't matter. They don't have that on their team to put up to be an offensive juggernaut like the Ravens are and have been so far. So I think the Broncos are going to be the value play after KC takes on the Buccaneers. And yes, they've been really good on the road. It didn't work out against the Ravens, but that's not mean that they're a bad bet, especially a divisional game. The Chiefs are going to be on short rest, playing on a Monday night game. Yeah, I'm going to go right back to the Broncos.
Next one up here, Buffalo and Indianapolis. The Indianapolis Colts are 4-4. Not a good performance from Flacco. 7-2, the Buffalo Bills come out with one. They keep squeezing out these victories in the division there. So they are 4.5-point favorites on the road in Indy. 47.5 is the number, plus 170 on the money line for the Colts. It feels about right for Buffalo. Like, this is where I would set this line, somewhere on 4.5. So if anything, I'm leaning towards the over in this one early, 47.5. I think the Colts offense at home gets back on track a little bit. And the defense still is not very good. That's my take on this one. Andrew, what's yours?
I guess I still like the under in this game. I mean, What did we see from the Colts offense? Again, I think that the Vikings defense is really not getting enough credit, to be honest. I really
Agreed.
think
that
they're
terrific.
Yeah, exactly. And people are pointing out the facts about how the Colts offense had their worst performance of the year as a passing team. They benched Richardson, and look, what do you know? That's not the reason. But Richardson would have equally as struggled as a passer too. I think that he probably would have helped the offense as a rusher, because that's something that Flacco can't do. So that's just a different conversation. But I don't think sending Flacco out against the Minnesota Vikings was the best way to be like, yep, this is how we're going to move our offense the rest of the season, because I think Richardson probably would have looked equally as bad as a passer in this particular matchup. So not saying that Flacco should be the guy the rest of the season. We'll see how things shake out. But the Bills have been, I feel like their defense is still kind of underrated. And until we see more, and what if this is the status quo with Flacco? What if he really just isn't? He's a 40-year-old quarterback that can't really move in the pocket. Maybe he's just not that great. And 47.5, again, that's expecting, hey, these teams are coming in firing, and the Colts are not right now. So you're going to have to see a different type of Joe Flacco offense in this matchup. So I kind of lean towards the under, honestly.
All right, so we're split there. Speaking of the Minnesota Vikings, they are now 6-2. The Jacksonville Jaguars 2-7. So the Jaguars are 5.5-point dogs at home. Sounds about right to me. 46.5 is the number here, plus 200 on the money line for Jacksonville. So we're talking about how good that defense is. Jacksonville missing Christian Kirk, missing pieces, a lot of injuries here on offense. Guys played but didn't play well necessarily. So if anything, Minnesota with the points, maybe a touchdown feels more comfortable. So I'm going to lean towards Minnesota here at the 5.5. The over under to me, again, then you're depending on Jacksonville to do their part. And I just don't know about my faith in that offense to do that. So give me the Minnesota Vikings here with a comfortable victory against a lesser Jaguars team that I think is about done here, or we just stick the fork in them for the season.
Yeah, I don't know how the Jaguars. I mean, it was because they were facing the Philadelphia Eagles that they got back into that game. I'm looking up. Is Nick Sirianni really going to blow this game against the Jaguars?
I've been talking about it all year. Nick Sirianni's decision making, and nobody wants to hear it. And somebody came at me on X about it too, on Twitter.
Defending Sirianni? Really?
defending Sirianni.
Wow.
Of course, it's an Eagles fan, and I'm just like, he's like, show me the thing, blah blah blah, and I very quickly replied, how about going for it on 4th down when you could just kick a field goal in that Falcons game, and then you end up losing that game because you didn't kick the field goal. Like, it's the first quarter of the game. Take the points. The old Bill Belichick adage: take the points whenever you can take the points, and then push the envelope when you have to push the envelope, not when you don't. That's how you win the NFL consistently. And Sirianni makes weird decisions over and over again. It's just what he does for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's bizarre. He seems kind of like dead man walking a little bit, but if they keep winning games to an extent, like they really can't get rid of him. But I mean, if there's ever going to be a coach that gets fired after a playoff victory, or excuse me, off a playoff loss, after a victory, how crazy would that be? After a playoff loss, would probably be Nick Sirianni. I think that's going to be telling when they match up against the Commanders this season later on, how those matchups go, because that's going to decide ultimately the division at the NFC East, because Dallas is, as we'll get into, Dallas is a crying a puddle right now.
Yeah.
So,
well, in the words of Dak Prescott, we effing suck. That's what he said.
Yeah,
he said it. His words, not mine.
And we'll get into more Cowboys talk.
All right, let's go to New England and Chicago here, somewhere Drake May is still running around. That was so fun. Like I didn't care that they lost in overtime. I thought it was just fun that he kept the game, he kept that play alive at the end. Toss one up there, go to overtime. Sure, you lost, whatever.
Hey, Joe, what do we say?
17.
Good teams win, great teams cover. They cover the 3.5.
That's right, and they did. The New England Patriots cover. Chicago Bears on the other hand. My goodness, prevent defense is not their strong suit. It's just not their strong suit, folks. Amari DeMarcado, come on, are you kidding me? Anyway, the Bears are now 4-4. They are 7-point home favorites here against the New England Patriots. 39.5 is the number, plus 280. I'm taking the Pats and the points. I'm just doing it.
Yeah, I think it's just the best process play. I mean, the Bears have just been, they've looked terrible the last 2 weeks, specifically Caleb. Again, you could excuse it maybe a little bit right off the bye week against the Commanders, but in this matchup against the Cardinals.
Because they were playing well offensively, then they hit the bye. We expect them to continue it, and it just gets worse for 2 weeks in a row. The offense has been terrible against the Commanders defense and the Cardinals defense. This is not exactly the 85 Bears we're talking about here.
Well, the Commanders defense has played really well at home.
They've improved,
I will say that.
No doubt.
The Cardinals, though, that's what I'm saying. I don't excuse that. This was a good spot for Caleb to bounce back, and he did not bounce back because just holding on to the ball. It's the issue when he holds on to the ball too long. It just creates chaos, and he's overthrowing guys. You look at all the air yards in that game. All Bears receivers seeing 100 air yards, and then you look at the real yards, and you're like, wait, where are the real yards? I don't want these air yards. I want real yards. So, yeah, I think that the Patriots have shown with Drake May that they can score offensively at least enough. Yeah. Drake May's shown enough with his legs that he can move and create plays. I don't like the Bears. It's a tough matchup against the Bears defense at home because this is traditionally where they play much better. So maybe for me, it's, man, I still have no confidence in the Patriots defense, man. Like Mason Rudolph at moments looked like he was ripping apart this defense.
I'm just, again, we'll see what Terrell says later in the week when we get this, but I feel like this is another one to close your eyes. Just like New England, it's New England 7. Like, it's just too many points.
Yeah.
If this was 5.5, maybe, but 7, I don't know. I just can't get there with the Bears. They're just, I don't know. They're not that good at the end of the day. San Francisco 49ers, they're 4-4 coming off a bye. Tampa is 4-4 right now. We'll see what happens on Monday Night Football, but this one right now, Tampa is 6.5-point underdogs. We think we're getting McCaffrey back, so it's early. 40.5 is the number here, plus 210. Still a lot of injuries and things like that to parse out here with the 49ers. My gut instinct says this is too many points on the road for the 49ers, even though they are coming off a bye. So I would lean towards Tampa Bay, but again, I'm going to reserve judgment on this one because I do think how Baker Mayfield continues to operate without Mike Evans and without Chris Godwin, I need to see more of it before I can start investing in it one way or another. That's just my feeling.
Yeah, I think that the lines right now are pretty accurate based on the information we have. We haven't seen Tampa Bay play yet, and we still don't know about all the 49ers injuries, except that they're just coming off a bye week, so we assume that they should be good to go, so I'm not touching this till later in the week.
The Steelers coming off a bye, they are 2.5-point underdogs going against Washington, who is now 7-2. 44.5 is the number for this one, plus 115 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a really good test here, I feel like, because the Tomlin teams are usually very well coached. They have played well here and scored more points with Russell Wilson. Washington's got all the good vibes. So I guess the big question is here, how do you feel now about this Washington team, and can they pass this new test here of a much more seasoned and much more, I think, reliable Steelers team than some of the opponents they faced this year?
I mean, I think I agree with the line. I think the Commanders should be favorites. They're playing at home. And I really want to point out, like, the Commanders defense is a top 5 defense at home this year in terms of, like, they've matched in terms of yards per game, points per game. They're in the top 3 at home. And I know that some of that seems kind of noisy depending on, well, who have they played? But we saw this last year with the Cleveland Browns, just 2 different teams home road, right? So I think that the Commanders are going to give issues for the Steelers offense, even coming off the bye week with Russell Wilson. Yes, Russell Wilson has looked good the last 2 games, but I think the Commanders defense is going to throw some issues at him. So I actually like the under in this game just because I'm giving respect. I'm just giving respect to both defenses because I think Commanders still have that stigma about, this defense isn't really good. But I mean, you point out with Russell Wilson, look, what happens when they don't come down with the 50-50 balls? Well, then those are, or what happens when Russ is holding onto the ball for so long? Those lead to sacks. And right now, I still like riding high on the Washington Commanders. So I'm cool with taking the Commanders here as slight home favorites, and I like the game total under.
The Los Angeles Chargers are hosting the Tennessee Titans in Week 10. 8.5 points right here on the favorite Los Angeles Chargers. 38 is the over-under, plus 350 for the Titans for the upset. That would be a fun upset. I just don't think they're up for it. Your thoughts here on the Chargers-Titans in Week 10?
I think you got to lay the points with the Chargers, to be honest. I think that the Titans, because, look, the Patriots defense I don't think is very good still, and I think that's why you saw good performances from Rudolph, from Tony Pollard, but the Chargers defense is really good, and they're playing at home. Harbaugh has got this team playing to its talent level, right? That was always the biggest thing with Chargers. Every year you look at the roster, man, this roster is so good, but they could never get the
health
actual.
Of Herbert. I think Herbert looks healthier than he has in the beginning of the year.
Yeah. So even though they don't have the flashy toys with the Keenan Allens, the Mike Williams, well, he's getting it done with Johnston and Palmer and McConkey, and the defense is showing up and playing lights out. I mean, Jameis Winston is still throwing interceptions against the Chargers defense. So I think if they give the Browns problems, they're going to give plenty of problems to the Tennessee Titans, who, if they can't run the ball with Tony Pollard, then they have no hope with Mason Rudolph, because the Titans look good on the first drive. I've noticed this the last couple of weeks. They just immediately score a touchdown and then don't do anything for the rest of the game for the most part. So, yeah, I think for me, even if it's shaky to start the game, you're going to be glad you back the Chargers here. So I'm going to, Chargers for me.
The Dallas Cowboys falling apart, and they're at home. Oh, what a wonderful combination. They are 6.5-point underdogs at home as the Philadelphia Eagles come into town. 44.5 is the number, plus 270 for the Dallas Cowboys on the money line. I'll take the 6.5 with the Eagles here on the road. Dallas looks like a disaster. If Cooper Rush ends up being the quarterback, I think this number jumps to 8.5 very quickly. Your thoughts?
I think that Dallas has now completely transitioned from being a team that's usually talked about as being overrated to now just being straight up bad. I think that's really where we've come to, where they've fallen off so much that they're just a bad team right now. And I think now is the time to get on the streak of bad games for Dallas Cowboys, because I don't see, why is it going to get better? I don't see a path where, Dallas turns it around, because they already have their bye week, right? that was what we were hoping.
Who do they play on Thanksgiving? Who do I have to suffer through for the Cowboys on Thanksgiving this year?
Isn't it the Commanders?
Oh, is it? Okay. All right. That's fun.
I think it is the Commanders.
That's actually a fun time.
Yeah.
It's the Giants, right?
I thought it was the Commanders. I know they played the Commanders last year, but I don't know off the top of my
Thanksgiving is not on the 24th. It's on the 28th. So, yeah, it's the Giants.
It is the Giants. All right. Well,
gross. Well, it's okay. It's during dinner time at 4:30.
So we know which game you do, because we're going to watch the Lions destroy whoever they're playing.
Right.
At the noon o'clock window.
I love how that's changed over the years too. It used to be like, okay, well, let's watch the Lions get their butt kicked, and then
it's a total reversal. But going back to the Eagles Dallas game, I think that I like the Eagles here. And to another point I wanted to bring up, I was talking to someone about this. I think right now, and a lot of has been said about Jerry Jones and how he's running this organization, how he runs it like a business, and I couldn't agree more with. That's why they're not winning championships, is because he's so focused on the business side of things, being the fan-friendliest team that lets fans go in and see the guys in the locker room, seeing in the training room. Like, that's what he's more concerned about, is just making money and not actually building a championship mentality with his roster. And that's why this Cowboys team is bad. And they're going to be bad until Jerry Jones is no longer calling the shots, to be totally honest. I think that's kind of where we're at.
McCarthy's not going to be long for this world. I still can't believe he survived the playoffs last year. I still shocked about it. And look, it turned out, I don't like people losing their job, but again, you lose at home to the youngest team in the NFL and get your doors blown off. I mean, you can't keep jobs that way. And not in organizations that have expectations. Speaking of expectations, the New York Jets are heading to Arizona. They are 1.5 point underdogs here. So Arizona's -1.5 here. You can get that at -110. Most books. 45.5 is the number. You're getting even money on the Jets money line, -120 on the Cardinals money line. So Cardinals pass rush did get to Caleb Williams yesterday. If they can get to Aaron Rodgers, I think Arizona has a good chance to win this football game. I just do. Your thoughts on this one? Are we buying what we saw at a Thursday night bad Houston Texans offense, so didn't have Nico Collins and didn't have Stephon Diggs and their usual weapons on a short week having to travel? I don't think I want to take too much out of it. I think I want Arizona. I think everyone's going to be feeling the Jets. I think this line's going to flip by the time we get to Sunday. That's my thoughts.
You mean as in the Jets are going to be favorites?
Mm-hmm.
You think the money's going to come in? So you're telling me I should bet the Jets right now because that's the side I kind of like in this matchup.
If you like the Jets, I think this is when you bet the Jets.
When I was handicapping this line, I was looking at it. I originally put the Cardinals as favorites because they're playing at home. But again, is this the start of the Jets now starting to click on offense? I get the Texans defense has nothing to do with the Texans offense. I know they're dealing with some injuries and the fact that they didn't really fear anything offensively made it better. But look, maybe we're starting to see this offense gel with Aaron Rodgers. Luke Getsy, now a free agent on the market. Can they bring him in as an offensive coordinator, former of the Packers, with Adams, with Rodgers? I mean, Rodgers is going to get his guys no matter what. So
maybe we can look at all the Packers. We get Vincent Lombardi back. Maybe get Favre out of jail. Let's get everybody.
I think maybe because I kind of like both teams. Maybe I do actually like the over here. It's playing in Arizona in the Dome. We've seen shootouts. I mean, famously, they had that shootout Packers-Cardinals game in the playoffs. I mean, this has nothing to do with that match, but that was a sick game with Aaron Rodgers where he got it was just a shootout.
A lifetime ago.
Against Kurt Warner. Still a great game.
A lifetime. Kurt Warner's beard is completely gray now.
So is Aaron Rodgers, but he's still kicking around.
Yeah, well, that's why I like Arizona. Because his beard is great too.
But I do think that...
I just think this is the classic trap game of the week. That's how I see it. Oh, good. Keep going.
I will say, I think the Jets' offense is starting to show things, and they can't stop the run, though. That's the issue. And what does Arizona do better than they want to run the ball? I think they are 5-1 against the spread when they've run for at least 100 yards this season. I think it's one of the stats I pulled from the primer from last week, which is why I like the Cardinals against the Bears, and they were able to establish the run, and they pulled it off. So I think both teams can score effectively here, and the total at 45.5, it looks like. I could see an over here.
Yeah, 45.5, yep. I'm just going straight for the Arizona Cardinals, and I'm going to wait till it flips, and then I'm going to bet the Cardinals on the money line. All right, let's go to Detroit and Houston. Detroit is 4.5 point favorites on the road, and I'm still worried about the Texans a little bit. This is a tough time in their schedule where short week, injuries last week. Now they have more time to prepare. Good news is they get Nico Collins back, so that's fun. 48.5 is the number for this one, plus 180. You get Goff indoors again. That's a good thing. I like the over in this one, 48.5. I think that's the best way. This one has range of outcomes written all over it, especially after a very emotional game. You're playing Green Bay, kind of letting it all hang out there, the rain, the whole thing there. I'm not saying this is a letdown game because the Houston Texans are a very good football team, but at the same time, I do think the AFC teams, typically have a little bit more oomph in them than some of these lesser NFC teams, and I think this could be more interesting of a contest than people realize, especially when Nico is back. And it does look like that is way things are trending early. So give me the over. That's my approach to this one. But what's yours, Andrew?
Yeah, I think that the over probably makes a lot of sense with Nico because he is the engine to this Texans passing game. Like he's the reason they make the big plays, and he makes everything better and easier for CJ Stroud. It's so bizarre because last year the Texans offensive line had so many injuries and CJ Stroud was better. And now all their guys are healthy, but they're all just playing really bad. So it's kind of a weird dichotomy between the Texans offensive line, especially because it's not the tackle issue. It's the interior of the offensive line that's just giving up so much pressure to CJ Stroud. So kind of similar to Tom Brady, right? How do you put him out of his spot? You pressure him up the middle. Like that's where he can't escape. And that's been the issue with CJ Stroud, who turned into a running quarterback against the New York Jets, right? Because nobody was open and he's running for his life. So of extended time, I think that you're right, though. I think we could see more. We're going to see a bounce back from CJ Stroud in this offense, especially with Nico Collins.
More time to prepare too.
With Nico Collins back.
And Detroit's always going to do its part too. That's the thing.
Yeah, they're going to score points.
Yeah, they're going to score 25 right off the bat there. You're halfway there. So you just got to, and that's the baseline. I feel like for Detroit is where we're at. Last one here, Monday Night Football, the Miami Dolphins, boy, another team that looks just completely done. I think it felt like that was the last ditch effort for the Dolphins on Sunday, that they just gave it all and they came up short on a 60+ yard field goal after he had missed some extra points earlier in the game. Oh, unbelievable. So the Rams at home, 2.5 point favorites. Rams defense playing a little bit better too lately too, making some picks in that game, getting to the quarterback. 50.5 is the number for this one, plus 125 for the Miami Dolphins. I'll take the Rams with the 2.5. I just think the Dolphins are cooked.
I don't disagree. It's hard for me to say.
It does feel dangerous though. It feels like another one of these classic, like this should just be clearly the Rams. And then every time this year where it feels like, well, this is just be clearly, it never is that easy. I get that. I get it.
No, I think that the Rams they're streaking right now, right? This is where you want to be back in the Rams. They're getting their guys back. I know Puka Nacua got ejected last week. Of course you got to get ejected, right? Right as you feel comfortable to put him back in your lineup.
How about this, though? Demarcus Robinson has 4 touchdowns in the last 2 games since Cooper and Puka Nacua came back. And he had 1 touchdown in the 6 games when nobody else was around. Somebody explain that to me, how that possibly happened.
See, the other guys just make it bizarre. So he has better looks. His efficiency just skyrockets because defenses aren't taking him away anymore, Joe. It's easy. It's because defenses aren't game planning for Demarcus Robinson. Man. But I agree here with the Rams. I do think that the over is pretty enticing too. I know it's a big number at 50.5 points, but it's in a dome. You have all that speed still from Miami's side. And look, the Rams are still trying to tackle Jackson Smith and Jigba, who almost had 200 receiving yards against them. So yes, the Rams can bring pressure, but who gets the ball out quicker than anybody else is Tua. So I think that both teams can score offensively in this spot. So I like the over here, but I also agree. I think the Rams at 2.5, 3? Yeah, I think probably with the Rams.
Thanksgiving games too. It's Bears, Lions, Giants, Cowboys this year, and then Dolphins, Green Bay, Packers in the night game. So
we might get 3 blowouts.
That sounded much better, I'm sure, to everybody in the NFL in like July and August. Like that's like
it always does. And then they look up and they're like, man, not again. Not again.
Oh, goodness gracious. All right, everybody, make sure you download the Betting Pros app. Make sure you are using the tools out there, especially the betting systems tool. It's one of the newer things we have out there. The new betting systems tool is designed to help you find winning strategies and make smarter bets. So go ahead and check that out. And you can track the performance of different betting systems over time. You can create your own or use existing ones that are out there. Download the Betting Pros app today and elevate your betting strategy. Use the custom line alerts, use the prop bet cheat sheet, use everything you can here to be successful in the wagering world. And of course, to see more of Andrew's write-ups for the games, make sure you go to bettingpros.com. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For Andrew Erickson, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.